Happy Halloween! What's up? What's up, people? Lines are closed. That's good. So I don't have any glare. All right. Jeez, man. Let me grab that list of stuff. Let me pull that up. Shit, that kind of killed my momentum a little bit. I'll try not to let it affect me too much. I'll just pretend that the power never went out, right? I was ready to stream anyway, so let's get it. This is the Halloween special. If I was a voter, I would say I missed the day. All I had to worry about was the Five Nights at Freddy's timeline. Beating voter? What? Oh, median voter. Spooky day? Yeah, it is spooky day. And I am dressed for the spooky day. This is why it's one of my favorite holidays. You get to dress up. Yeah, that's true. It's a Halloween moment. So, last time I booted up this game to stream, last time I was here, 3 baby Pokemon jumped Kyogre and beat his ass in under 2 minutes after going through 40 floors of a dungeon that was way easier than I thought it was going to be, which is going to be a video, by the way. That's going to be a segment on my YouTube channel. Now I'm going to do the regular thing. I'm going to play some Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. There is some politics to talk about, so that's going to be fun. And I do mean fun, like for real, because it's elections and shit. And me being a nerd, I like looking at the election numbers for countries that have actual elections, as opposed to the United States, where you're deciding between diarrhea forever, in parentheses, the Republicans, and random edge case tax credit that you probably won't benefit from, in parentheses, the Democrats. So, what does my job list look like? Mount Blaze, Frosty Forest, Mount Thunder. Oh yeah, I think I already went through this. Game's stuck against you? Stacked against me, you mean? Let's see, what was I gonna do here? Game is stacked against you. I don't know, maybe a little bit. Please. Let me see if there's anybody to talk about that isn't just gonna mention Buried Relic again. What's up? Akihita Dojo. That dojo works quite a bit differently in this game versus Rescue Team DX. In this game, it's just like a sample dungeon that has, what, like 5 floors or something? It's pretty cool, like as a training exercise. But in Rescue Team DX, you fight exclusively like one type of Pokemon, and it's like a arena where it's shaped like a regular dungeon, but there are no stairs. It's only one floor. And there are no traps. There's just wonder tiles. And if you faint, you instantly get revived, and it's just on a time limit. And it's meant to, as much as it's meant to like train you for experience points, it's also meant to train your moves, which is cool. How much money do I have in the bank? 147. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm broke in this game. And I did not assemble my team yet. That's one thing I still need to do. So it's an anime montage? Yeah, kind of. It is, like a anime training montage. Oh, I have to have the gummies in my inventory, don't I? Okay. I'm gonna grab just a bunch of gummies out of storage and eat all of them. This is what I did in Rescue Team DX, is I used the gummies to get stat boosts, and then started doing the same for my partner and stuff. Yes, give me those items. Surprise your character doesn't get fat. If they made that a game mechanic, he would definitely be getting fat. Alright, so I have to go to a friend area to do this. Knowing the internet, there's definitely a mod for that. Probably not, because the the sprite work in this game is very rudimentary, and then in Rescue Team DX, it's not very easy to mod. Like, it's kind of hard to mod that game. Here, do I maybe have to make somebody else the leader so I can... Oh. Wait, how do I eat gummies then? What? How does this work? Can I not do that as my main character? Oh, here, make leader. There we go. Okay, then I will visit. So that's how you have to do it. So you are gonna have a bunch of gummies. Right? Nice. There we go. Okay, okay. So what you have to do, no wonder they changed this. This is really clunky. You have to not be the leader. You have to, you can't eat gummies as the leader of the team. So if you want your leader to eat a gummy, you have to make somebody else the leader and then give the gummies to them that way, which is wacky. So I'm going to be here for a little bit doing this. Bosses cannot have candy rule? Yeah, that's true. If you're the boss, you're not allowed to have candy. Many such cases. Okay. Alright, that makes 20. And let's keep going. I'll go back, and I'm gonna be going back and forth and giving gummies to Bulbasaur in this manner. So if you thought, like, with how quick me jumping Kyogre was, I'm about to start beating bosses even worse. Given how much my stats are gonna be augmented by this. Yeah, literally like Stando power. Okay. Gonna get some more gummies. Let me actually, while I'm doing this, I'm gonna pull something up. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, cool. Cool. Reminds me of a story when a character said I was born weak, and I was like, have you considered steroids or testosterone? Many such cases. You know, well, some people actually can't take hormones. Like something to do with, some people have like certain blood circulation problems that makes that difficult. But like, some people have legitimate physical complications that prevent them from being able to take hormones. So like if your hormones are imbalanced, you're just kind of fucked. You know, which is unfortunate. But now I can talk a little bit about politics. I can do analysis. And you know how I mentioned in the food stamps video, or the video that ended up being about food stamps mostly, it was about the government shutdown and how the shutdown is going to persist probably into November, and how it's very likely that SNAP is going to dry up. I mentioned when I was reading the article that I was looking at, that it's a possibility that states will pick up the tab for funding SNAP. And lo and behold, here's Bernie Sanders on Twitter. I'm grateful that the Vermont governor and legislators acted to prevent Vermont children and families from going hungry. Now Trump must obey the law and release $5 billion in emergency SNAP funding appropriated by Congress. The richest country on earth shouldn't be facing a hunger crisis. Right? And then here, VT Digger. That sounds like something I shouldn't be saying, but okay. Vermont officials approve state-funded food stamps through November 15th. So this is basically what I was talking about, where the Vermont state government in this case has said for at least 2 weeks, we're gonna fund food stamps. What if Trump says no to this? He can't say no to this. The federal government can't really stop. The most they could do, what the federal government could do if they really wanted to stop states from doing this, they could sue them. It's possible if the government wants to stop states from feeding the population, it's possible that they bring suit, and we would hear about that. But this is Vermont's money to spend. You know, like the federal budget is one thing. That's the federal government's money to spend. And then the states also have their budgets. That's their money to spend. If they decide to spend it on something that it isn't constitutionally explicitly prohibited from them spending money on, they can do it, you know? And states actually have a much wider net, theoretically, to spend money on stuff than the federal government does, because if you read the Constitution, it's like, yeah, Congress has the power of the purse. By the way, anything that we say is like barred from the federal government doing in terms of like funding powers, the states can do that. Or there's a lot of stuff where it's like, yeah, anything that the federal government isn't explicitly allowed to do can remain in the hands of the states or the people, right? It doesn't say that like states can't also do things that the federal government does. I mean, there's like federal government spends money, at least they used to, on transportation. The states also spend money on transportation. There's a lot of overlap in what the states and the federal government spend money on. So, but nonetheless. So for at least 2 weeks, that's one state. We'll have to see. Definitely look up whether your state is going to pick up the tab. Call your state representatives or like legislators or whatever. Their phone numbers are all public, by the way. You can just look up the name of your state and then senator, and then you can call their phone number. It doesn't matter if it's a state senator or a U.S. senator that's from your state or anything like that. If there's a politician that represents your state in any fashion, you can call them. Their phone number is public. And I encourage people to do so if they're in a tight spot, to say, hey, is the state going to be funding food stamps come November when the federal funding dries up and when the government decides not to spend the money it has set aside for this? You know? But right now, the only information we have is that Vermont is going to do that. You can say tomorrow. Oh yeah, that's true. It's October 31st. Yeah, definitely call to ask about like in the coming couple of weeks if they're going to be spending money on that stuff. You know? All right, now you're going to be the leader. So now I'm going to go visit, I think, Longshore. Hello. Summary? Yeah, he's only level 19. Okay, join team. Does he have an item? Yes, Mudkip does in fact have an item. Alright, very good. Every Pokemon in this game is making my team so over leveled. It's funny. Oh, in Legends Z to A? I think I'm gonna buy that game. I don't know whether I want to do digital. I might purchase the physical copy. You know? Because I'm a big believer in physical media. Let's see how much my stats increased. By a decent amount. I think I was only like had stats in the 50s or whatever. Stored Oranberry, store that. Very good. Well, you know, I did test it, so it works with no Wi-Fi. That's good. Yeah, if it's the case that the only difference between physical and digital is... Well, no, you know what? I don't think I'm even gonna... I don't know. I'm not gonna decide just yet. I do want the game, though. Now let's go and do some jobs. I think that I have to do a couple jobs in the intervening days to get the story to progress. And then some more story stuff will happen. Yeah, to wrap up that segment about food stamps and the government shutdown, obviously Bernie Sanders is based, and we knew that like Vermont was going to figure something out. If more states don't like do some analogous measure to picking up the tab on SNAP funding, things are going to get very, very ugly in a hurry, right? Because like I mentioned last time, people are going to die without their SNAP benefits. Nice increase of crime. Oh yeah, crime is going to increase because this is like a landmark instance of like social instability. And like there's no recourse, you know? Expect shoplifting to increase, and particularly with regards to like food items, right? People are going to steal food rather than die, right? This is the philosophical edge case that people refer to, which is not actually so much of an edge case when they talk about in defense of stuff like shoplifting, you know? Legitimately, shoplifting is going to happen, and that's going to be the better of the two potential outcomes, right? Because the other outcome is mass starvation, but hey, at least you haven't broken the law, right? I told my dad this, and he just says this would encourage evil people to steal. Actual baby brain take. If you are dying from lack of food, and your options are either to starve or to steal food, do you just decide to die? There's no third option. There's no like, you know, this is the fucking trolley problem, except it's not even remotely as difficult of the trolley problem. Your options are steal food and survive, or don't steal food and fucking die, right? Because that's the kind of situation that people are placed in if they are losing SNAP benefits that they've relied on, right? You have to, and like, I'm not going to, I will say you're stupid for answering, I would rather die than steal, but I can't call you inconsistent if you answer that. You can call somebody both stupid and like just completely intellectually deficient on top of being just your default kind of stupid if they say like, well, I simply wouldn't do either. You have to engage with the hypothetical, because for millions of people in this country, for about 40 million people, it's not a hypothetical anymore. You probably just say something like, get a job. They have jobs. I don't know if people know this. SNAP recipients have jobs. There are a lot of SNAP recipients that are unemployed. There are a lot of SNAP recipients, in fact, probably the majority of them, if unemployment statistics are anything to go by, statistically speaking, most of those SNAP recipients have jobs. Unemployment in the United States is only like 6 million. There are 40 million people that rely on SNAP. They have jobs. If you can steal someone's pencil in first grade, you can heist the store. Yeah, exactly. Look, you think the people working in the store get to benefit from any of that food? No. No, okay. Nobody's going to miss that fucking 2 pounds of frozen chicken that you stole from the Kroger, right? Nobody's gonna miss that. Companies are gonna get real upset because they couldn't make another like $10 off of some chicken, but like nobody's gonna care. You're gonna go home and eat the chicken and not die. The company might, like, I don't know, lose out on a tiny bit of money from people stealing food rather than dying. It is genuinely like the level of moral negativity that comes from like shoplifting in order to like not starve to death doesn't even remotely come close to first grade level I'm gonna sneak my friend's pencil. Like, if you think those two are even remotely comparable, then I have a bridge to sell you. Never used. You know? And that is to say they're not even remotely comparable. Stealing from a grocery store when you're starving is infinitely more defensible. Yeah, look, we're literally talking about companies that throw their food in the garbage rather than giving it to you for free. You know? Okay, there's the stairs. I don't envy seeing how that's gonna play out. That's gonna suck. Some people are encouraging their kids to get as much candy as possible this year. Yeah, that's kind of a depressing thought, but like, yeah, that's you know, legitimately, that's gonna be the way it is. And I'm gonna be handing out candy too. I don't know how how many people are gonna come trick or treating in you know, my apartment building, but you know, if there are any kids walking around who want some candy, I will hand out candy and stuff. Because I love Halloween. It just sucks that it's happening in this kind of backdrop, you know? And haven't thought of that either. I live on my own now. Yeah, look, preparing for Halloween is not that difficult. You get like a couple cheap decorations to let people know basically that your house is open for business when the trick-or-treaters come by. Then you just have like a mixing bowl and you put some candy in it. Easy preparation. Also, congrats, Zylan. Reach date destination floor. Please tell me this is the destination floor for the escort mission. Yes. Okay. I don't have to worry about this guy for too much longer. Razor leaf. Perfect. Hey, level 35. Student housing moment. Ah, many such cases. Fire looks nice on that ghost. Yeah, the burn effect does look really cool in this game. It's just a shame that you take 5 damage every time. And since he has so little HP, it doesn't heal back very quickly. Which is why it was kind of annoying to bring them around with me. Anyway, I should have long since ended the segment about food stamps. People are like actually gonna die because of this. It's not gonna be good, and this is like a fucking I'm sick of living through major historical events moment. You know, like I'm sick of living through the goddamn hunger crisis of the 2020s or whatever. You know. That's not the key I meant to hit. How much longer until food prices drop significantly? They won't. Except for, I think, soybeans. Food prices don't decrease for consumers. That's what's so fucked up about a market economy. Food prices, and prices in general, can only ever increase. Prices do not decrease. Unless it's like, oh, there's like a sale, you know? You guys ever, like, with stuff like a game on Steam, or if there's food that's like, yeah, we need to get this off the shelf, so we'll reduce the cost because it's like about to go bad or something. So like, it's still good right now, but it's not going to keep for very long. Those are the circumstances where prices will temporarily decrease, but the market price, the market rate for something will never go down. Ever, of its own volition, unless some sort of legislative or legal chicanery ensues to make the price go down. That's why stuff like rent control and pricing controls are so important, because like otherwise rent will increase infinitely. There's no incentive for rent to ever decrease, you know? But wages are the opposite. Unless legal intervention ensues, wages will never increase. Wages will only ever stagnate. No one can afford it, and who's buying it? Yeah, Gotron's exactly right. If no one can afford it, it just goes in the trash. Because the agriculture industry in America is subsidized. They get their money either way. They just want to have the cake and eat it too. That's why they keep prices high. And the market follows that logic pretty consistently. You know? The state is the guarantor of market profits. If you try to get into the garbage, the cops are sent after you. Yeah, if you go dumpster diving, you can legitimately get arrested. Dumpster diving, by the way. Nah, I will keep going. Might be able to show you guys what I mean by like recruiting legendaries and stuff. But in order to do that, I'm gonna have to be a little bit smarter about using my moves. Oh, never mind. It just ends there. Okay. Nice. Yes, I will save the game. Now let's talk about something more fun. Dutch elections. We love some elections, don't we, folks? I've probably said that exact rhetorical question before, but I meant it then and I mean it now. We love our elections. Here, let's go put some things in storage. First, maybe let me buy something. Reviver seed, definitely. Huge apple, definitely. Definitely gonna need to recommit to buying food in-game because, you know, you go through food kind of quickly in dungeons and stuff. I'll put some things back. Seed, very good. And I will take out... whoa, what is going on? A button not registering. Okay. Take out, give me some stuff. What do I got? Do I have any held items that are in excess of 4? Held items above 4. Nope. Oh wait, 1 special band. Okay, I can take that out. And then I think I had when the world is a joy seed, and why does it cost so much? Sounds kind of sus. It raises your level by 1. Which is why it's so expensive. Because it can skip tens of thousands of experience points. So that is why. I still need a couple of apples, I think. Yeah. Take an apple. And I will take 1 more apple. Alright. Now, I've got my items sorted for the moment. Elections time. The fun part. I have a Reuters link written down as well, but I think legitimately I just want to look at the Wikipedia article. Because I trust my own analysis over Reuters analysis. So, the 2025 Dutch general election. Early general elections were held in the Netherlands on the 29th of October 2025 to elect the members of the House of Representatives. The elections had been expected to be held in 2028, but a snap election was called after the Shuf cabinet collapsed due to the PVV withdrawing from the coalition. I actually talked about this as well when I might have even made a video on it, the latest far-right government collapse. True to form, if you look at the election results, projections have shown the Democrats 66, Order 66 moment, and the PVV as the largest parties, each winning 26 seats. If you look at this, it seems like the far right collapsed the government so hard so many times that they have made people think, okay, maybe the far right is like not a good idea. Maybe we shouldn't elect the people that just spend all their time screeching about immigrants because they can't run a government. They all hate each other and they never stop screeching about immigrants. You know, that's all well and good when you're trying to sell people on why you should be in government instead of the other guy. But if you just keep screeching about immigrants in government rather than being like, okay, now let's spend money on transportation here. Let's let us reinforce the rail infrastructure of this country. Let's make sure that hospitals are properly staffed. Let's make sure that everybody's getting an education. You know, if you're not doing any of that, then you kind of you're kind of on a clock there. So you can see here 26 and 26 in the House. You have D66, then PVV, VVD, GroenLinks, PVDA, then CDA, and then JA21, FVD. So it looks like the top represented parties are dominated either by the far right in the case of these down here and these here, or the like center left libs, or just the center libs with, you know, D66, CDA, and JA21, with a couple exceptions being the SP, which again, only 3 seats, and then GLPVDA, which has 20 seats. I can foresee a coalition potentially happening between the D66 and PVDA and like the CDA, you know, like the lib left's kind of liberal social democrat coalition. But it's safe to say that like people are kind of losing trust in the far right parties. The big thing I want to hammer on here is that it's still troubling. This doesn't necessarily alter the course of political development in the Netherlands from what I warned about last time. If you guys remember, in the video I did where Geert Wilders can't hold the fucking government together, I did make a video about this. Shout out to all the Dutch homies. The United States followed a certain path where the far right got elected, and then crisis ensued, government instability, etc. And people elected Joe Biden and centrist liberals. And then when the centrist liberals predictably did nothing, they went right back to the populist right, but the populist right was actually more frothing at the mouth and had a plan of action to destroy the country, which surprisingly people actually kind of went for, just because it was a narrative, any narrative at all, right? Basically, the moral of that story is political success in the modern age with a political and economic system that people are overwhelmingly losing trust in. The road to success is populism. The road to success is paved with populism. So much so that you could have the best platform in the world, but if you're not populist, you will lose. You could have the best political program in the world, but if you are not populist, if you can't sell people, or if you're unwilling to commit to giving people a narrative where there are extraordinarily and inherently flawed elements of the system, there are bad actors in the system who are bad actors by virtue of, I don't know, their class or some other association. If you don't have a narrative like that, you will lose. And if you do have a narrative like that, no matter how harebrained it is, you will win if the opposition doesn't have one. You know? And that's what we're witnessing right now. The far right, most harebrained political platform and governing ability known to man, they suck, But they have a narrative, and they know how to sell people a narrative. They can say, like, yeah, obviously people have lost trust in the system, life is getting worse, cost of living, blah, blah, blah. And it's because of those damn immigrants and Jews. I don't know the degree to which the far-right party in the Netherlands says Jews. In the United States, the far-right is very fond of blaming Muslims and immigrants. In other countries, it's Muslims and immigrants as well. In some countries, it's Jews and immigrants, etc., etc., right? The minorities change depending on the country. But the reason that the liberals haven't been effective, and why I think these liberals will not be particularly effective in challenging the far right, even when they control the government, is that they don't have any sort of narrative to go on. Because D66 are center-left liberals, they might, I don't know, they might shore up some funding in some places, I guess, I don't know, but they're not going to do anything that sort of fundamentally changes for the better social relationships in society, right? Like a lot of the social rot, socioeconomic rot that's associated with like data centers, people becoming more lonely, corporations consolidating more and more economic power. That's going to continue happening under the liberals, just a little bit more slowly and more institutionally. They're just going to more competently administer the decline that births the far right to begin with, right? So that's a bit of a problem, right? This is a break for a little while, but it's kind of like a calm before the storm almost, I want to say. Seriously, if the Socialist Party down here, or if the GLPVDA doesn't start incorporating more and more young political demographics into their parties, into their coalitions, and if they don't start giving some kind of popular and populist narrative for people to go off of, then they are going to be stuck in a slow, brutal, painful decline, while the far right, try as they might, cannot lose. Basically, expect the far right to be, isn't this how Trump wins? Yes, that is how Trump won, because even out of power, he was super, super relevant, because the far right performs way better when they're out of power. That gives the populists ammunition to then go to, the government that says that is like not really doing anything, and say, look at the government. They're not fundamentally changing anything. You've been cheated, It's such an easy layup. And the liberals, by virtue of not wanting any fundamental change, liberals being, liberal politicians, liberal parties, by not wanting any change at a fundamental sort of level, to, change the social and economic character of a country away from capitalism and towards a more economically democratic system, they give the far right easy ammo to say, look, they're not doing anything to help you. And there's a version of that is very, very true and accurate. The lie by omission comes in the fact that the far right isn't going to do anything to help you. They're just going to blame everything on immigrants and accelerate the already deleterious trends that, liberal democracy is responsible for even harder. Expect the media to still be talking about the far right even when they're not in power. Liberals are just very bad at wielding power and wielding the bully pulpit, and the tools of statecraft and media. Because for the liberals, all of their major political aspirations have already been met. There is nothing that liberal parties actually want for the world. They want things to remain as they are, right? That's not an affirmative political aspiration. That's not a project to build towards. As horrendous as it is, mass deportation and detention camps is an affirmative political project to build towards, because that's something that you need to do that hasn't been done yet, right? In the minds of the far right. That is an objective that they have that has not yet been met. And they will go into fucking demon timing to get it. And on the other side, you have the socialists, who are similarly excluded from the halls of power by virtue of being both populist and inconvenient for the ruling classes. The political aspiration of socialists is to make society more democratic, to finally break through the class barrier that separates the owning class from the working class, that creates all of these like toxic relationships where, like, if you're a shareholder or an owner of a business, you have to make sure that the bottom line gets padded, and you keep having to, or just voluntarily because you don't really care, going to like, oh, cut wages, lay people off, cut staff, cut wages, etc., etc. Meanwhile, spend more on, in the case of the United States, stock buybacks, or like, you know, increase our own salaries, that sort of thing, buy properties, buy, you know, do deals with other companies to build these data centers, buy and sell people's data to make line go up, right? Their line continues to go up, and because that line continues to go up at such a pace, there's a widening gap between them and the rest of society, which makes the rest of society worse because you can feel that distinct lack of wealth for the people that need to live day to day. Does that make sense? Basically, what I'm saying is every country is going to experience a version, every developed country that is a liberal democracy is going to experience a version of neoliberals kind of coasting by on power, briefly losing to the far right, coming back, and then everything going to shit, right? Every country is going to experience some version of that, you know? And the only way to resolve the issues that both arise from and cause that, the only way to fix the problems that would cause such a relationship between a do-nothing government and an insane government, or that would result from a do-nothing government and an insane government, is socialism, is to make society more economically democratic and beneficial for everybody, particularly people who are very economically vulnerable. And you can't do that within the framework, with the existing framework of capitalism. You actually do have to restructure the relationship that people have to production and economic exchange, you know? And I know that, like, a lot of that is waxing poetic. A lot of that is, you know, me engaging in platitudes. So let me get concrete real quick. I know a lot of liberals fancy themselves policy nerds. Here is something that you could do, two, in fact, policy suggestions that would genuinely be major steps on the road to a socialist society where everybody lives a good life. Number one, ban the stock market. No more stock trading. Speculative value, no longer a thing. Stop it. Number two, all housing is now affordable housing, owned by the state, or rather, not owned by the federal state, owned by the municipal government. In the same way that we treat roads, paths, and rail lines if you're in Europe. That shit is public infrastructure. Housing is public infrastructure, and it should be treated as such. You know? Two things. And if you're in America, then number three would be, numbers 3 and 4 would be start phasing out cars in favor of trains, again, public infrastructure, and also Medicare for all or single payer health care system, nationalize the health sector. That's something that's applicable to every country. Legitimately, I don't think the market should be allowed to touch medicine, because it's the easiest example of in the world of an inelastic demand curve where there is no price that somebody could raise a life-saving medicine to that people wouldn't be willing to pay, because it's either you pay that much money or you die. You know? That's why medicine is so expensive in the United States. It's because the market fucking ruins everything. Yeah, like, I guess my appeal to the European liberal would be, first and foremost, think about the relationship between corporations and medicine in the United States. That is the relationship that we have to break, not just in medicine, but in everything, in transportation, in housing, in electricity and the internet, right? All that stuff needs to be, to some degree, nationalized. And when I say nationalized, I mean mostly taken over by like municipal governments, you know? Like we already do this with certain utilities. Water. Water is a public utility. You know how cheap water is? It's like $30 a month for running water. That is not expensive, at least in the United States it's not. If you sort of cost adjust for the cost of living in Europe, that's probably 15 euros per month. That's how much water costs to have running water in your home. And that's because it's public infrastructure. There's not like a million different layers of contracting or whatever, you know? And to relate it all back, those are just some policy examples of how you could wrest control of essential infrastructure and components of society in an economic sense from the private sector, from the market, and put it in the hands of democratically accountable bodies, into the hands of the people. You know, if you don't do that with water, with electricity, with the internet, with transit infrastructure, with housing, with medicine, with whatever else, none of this is going to get fixed. And we're going to be in a perpetual death spiral where it's the far right, then liberals, then the far right, then liberals, and nothing ever gets better. That's what we're watching play out right now. It's just the liberals' turn to administer the decline. You know? Also ban generative AI, thank you. That's another thing that I would do. So, you know, shocker, the guy who's a socialist says that the way you get out of this cycle of government going back and forth between do-nothings and insane people is to do socialism. Thank you. But, you know, I did my best to kind of explain what some of the things would be that would be like socialist in nature. You know, like taking the means of production, i.e. like certain sectors of the economy, and putting them in the hands of democratic control, you know, rather than having them in an unelected control by like a board of directors or shareholders or something like that, you know? That's probably the best I can visualize any of that. But I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about elections because it's fun. Look, you know, I get to go to a Wikipedia article. My autistic ass gets to look at the colors, and there's links, and there's all these funny letters that describe these parties, and there's the funny words that describe what the parties are, and there's funny numbers that describe how powerful the parties are. So I really do like these segments. Maybe I ought to do more election-related content. Cut the segment there, future me. They think they're like the main character. They're like, you know, there has to be another way. It's ironic because in order to be the main character, you have to be a component part of a story with a narrative arc and narrative logic. And liberals categorically deny, like the liberal parties and politicians categorically deny narrative logic as a component of politics. So it is what it is. I will sell this special event. Jesus, held items sell for so much in this game. Maybe I should, you know what I should do would be actually a great idea, is if I cultivated like a social media feed where I could like see what elections are happening everywhere in the world and could talk about elections as frequently as is possible, right? Like if I feel like I'd be on my shit if I could just be talking about elections all the time. I feel like I'd be perpetually on demon timing. What do we got here? Let's see, Mount Thunder, Thunderwave Cave, and Mount Freeze? And Frosty Forest, but I don't see any of those. Discord? Okay. Escort me. Yeah, okay. Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon. Great Canyon. Grand Canyon. Many such cases. Me when I go to fucking... I forget which state the Grand Canyon is in. I should know this. I'm American. I'm gonna take a couple jobs here. You know what? I'll just take the 2 jobs in my mailbox, I think. I think that ought to be good. I'll take that. I'll take this. Both escort missions, but you know, I think I know how to deal with rodeos like that. Damn, shiny Pokemon on the roof? That's crazy. Let me... There's an audio cue when a shiny spawns. Oh, that's helpful. That's quite helpful. I'm... Buttons not registering for some reason. Okay, he's almost level 20. Make leader. Now visit Y2K. That's me. Yevgami. Nice. I'm probably gonna be, you know, eating these gummies for the rest of the game. Like, repeating such a pattern as this for the rest of the game. Because... Your stats, aside from HP, your stats in this game max out at 255. They cannot get any higher than that, despite the fact that in the main series games, your stats can max out actually at... They max out at a certain point given what your base stat total is. And regardless of the number, they can go up to, I think, 4 times that number. So if you have 300 attack at level 100, right? Your attack stat is 300. If you use like Swords Dance a bunch of times or whatever, you can have up to 1200 attack. But that's only under the circumstance of you having your attack boosted. And I think you can boost your attack beyond the maximum in this game. But in this game, the maximum number is a hard number as opposed to it being determined by your base stat total like it is in the main series. Because stats work a bit differently in this game. But that's A-okay. Nice. 69 special attack. Alright, job list. Frosty Forest is where I'm headed next. Right, I confirmed that, I think I confirmed that there wasn't any, like... Wait, actually, there was one thing I need to check still, and that's near the bulletin board. Okay, yeah, there's nobody here. Oh, what's up, Diglett? Oh my god. Diglett lore? Oh, dude. That's crazy. That's awesome. I don't think that has any discernible effect in game, but that's cute. I'm glad I checked that out. They love their son. I love that, like, Dugtrio is just super cool because he goes everywhere, but then he comes back and he's like, "Where is my son? I love him very much and I want to say hi." Or rather, we love him very much and want to say hi because, you know, Dugtrio is Polly and that's based. Well, now that I've seen that adorable scene, let's go to Frosty Forest, where surely the warmth that has touched my heart from Dugtrio will effortlessly blaze through the whole forest and cause climate catastrophes because I've destroyed an entire ecosystem. Your fault, by the way, Dugtrio, for being too based. You should be less cool next time. No, don't actually. You should, Dugtrio should be exactly as based as he is, because that's cool. As they are, excuse me. Or how many times fire Pokemon have accidentally caused forest fires? That's a pretty good question. I don't know. Kind of a grim prospect, though. I know that with Pokemon like Rapidash, it's probably extremely low because like the fire on their back isn't really fire or whatever. I forget what the rule is there, but like the fire from a Rapidash's back touching stuff doesn't like necessarily catch stuff on fire. And also like there tend to be some water type Pokemon that live in forests as well. So they could probably use Water Gun or something. Oh, nice, an apple. I will gladly take those extra food supplies. Not earning as much experience. Oh, like a young Pokemon accidentally shooting fire in the wrong spot? I get you. Yeah. I wonder... It's a shame I'm not earning as much experience as I would like to be. Oh, that was a Ditto? That wasn't even Piloswine. I feel cheated. Okay, that was a Piloswine. What's up, Ditto? Get out of here. Was it 7th and 8th floor, I think? Can you recruit a Ditto in this game? Yeah, you can. They're kind of useless, but you can. Because when Ditto transforms, you know, in the main games, when Ditto transforms, you get... Nidoqueen, where are you going? Nidoqueen? Okay. Very concerned by that. When you catch a Ditto in the main series games, they have and you transform into a Pokemon, it'll have the moves of whatever Pokemon it transforms into, right? So if it's a Pidgeotto that knows Gust, and Ditto transforms into Pidgeotto, it will know Gust also, and it can use that. And in fact, it copies the stats of the Pokemon too. So there will be a speed tie. But in this game, Ditto doesn't copy the stats or moves of a Pokemon. It just copies its appearance. And Transform only has one usage point, so you instantly run out of moves entirely and are relegated to using Struggle, which does a lot of recoil damage. Why would they do that? I don't know. That's kind of mean to Ditto, if I'm being honest, you know? Although I know that in the lore of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Ditto can do some freaky shit. Like in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time, Darkness, and Sky, or at least in Sky, on on the Team Charm special episode, you get to a certain dungeon called Mirage Cave. And spoilers if you haven't played the game, but the game came out in 2009. I feel like it's only fair to talk about this now. When you get to the end of the dungeon, you find an empty treasure chest, and it turns out that empty treasure chest is a Ditto, and various Pokemon that you encounter along the way, friendly Pokemon that didn't attack you, actually are a Ditto. And Ditto has been transforming into various Pokemon and items as a form of misdirection, and has successfully, apparently in the game, this is the lore of the game, Ditto is so successful and so good at misdirecting Pokemon that as a dungeon boss, they have done a stalwart job of protecting a time gear. Like, Ditto was a dungeon boss assigned to protect a time gear. That's the kind of shit that literally the legendary Pixie Trio are the other guardians of time gears. And then you just have Ditto. There's only 6 time gears. 3 of them are guarded by the legendary Pixies. One of them, to my knowledge, is just not guarded at all in Tree Shroud Forest. One of them is guarded by Ditto. And I don't know about the last one. But yeah, it's like Ditto can just transform into random shit. Apparently. So that's pretty cool. But in the gameplay of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Ditto's pretty useless, which is very unfortunate. No, I don't want to leave. I will continue with the adventure because Rattata still needs to level up. That's kind of what's going on right now. I'm a little bit serving cunt, of course, because of my outfit. But I'm also a little bit serving 2 masters because I do want to advance through the post game, but I also want to level up members of my team. So I will continue through the dungeon and get some, farm some more EXP. In lore, Ditto can solo the verse. Yeah, Ditto in lore is like fucking insanely strong, and then Ditto in gameplay is like literally lore Ditto is like Hydrogen Bomb, and then gameplay Ditto is like Coughing Baby. I think there's 14 floors in this dungeon. Ditto's getting his own spin-off game? Really? I love that for him. That's kind of crazy. I wonder how that'll go over. It's like Animal Crossing. Oh, that's cute. Where's the stairs? One of the unfortunate thing about some of the ice type dungeons is that the colors are very bright, so it's hard to see the mini-map. Oh, that was it. Okay. Power Band. And I get hella exploration points. Cool. You can combine creatures to form abominations. Okay, that's kind of gross. I don't know how I feel about that. Reminds me of the fucking DNA splicer from Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. That scene, like that scene in Black and White 2 of Kyogre, not Kyogre, fucking Kyurem, assimilating Reshiram or Zekrom, depending on the version, actually like made me, and still makes me kind of upset to watch. Do you mean transform, not absorb creatures? No, yeah, I know that. But it reminded me of the like DNA splicing and shit. I'm not under the illusion that Ditto is like the fucking blob from that one horror movie. I have no I have no space for items. Oopsie. Human but with fines per arms? That sounds goofy. Let's put all that back. I will take some items out of storage. For example, power band. I will take 2 power bands. There we go. Let's take anything else. Do I have any gummies? Nope, no gummies. Okay. You're good. What do I have? 478. Oh, goodness. I will take a couple of huge apples for food purposes. Oh, also, one thing I had been meaning to share several streams ago, by which I mean like 2 or 3 streams ago, that I will share now because I kind of forgot about it, on stream that is that what you need to do to evolve your character? Nothing. I think I can evolve right now if I wanted to, but I don't want to. In like my downtime, sometimes when I have my phone at a restaurant, whatever, sometimes I like to have something to read. I'll just pull up an article of a subject that interests me. I actually, my most recent project to that effect, or my most recent article of choice to that effect, was that I read the article, wiki article about Soviet era housing development, Soviet era housing construction in the Soviet Union. And it was really interesting. I really enjoyed reading it. And I learned a lot about housing development. For example, one of the most maligned things in the Soviet Union with respect to housing development was this process that was known as compaction. Compaction was the practice of basically trying to even out the density of housing, of people in housing across cities in the Soviet Union, which effectively meant putting people from the working class into apartments that were occupied by families of the upper classes, right? All of a sudden, the upper classes had a much more literally cramped and dense living situation, and plenty of people made their complaints known about it. And to this day, a lot of people whose entire political identity revolves around poo-pooing the Soviet Union will refer to that as one of the major failures of the Soviet Union. Only problem is, by all measurable accounts, that was one of the greatest successes of early Soviet housing development. You see, the housing situation in the Soviet Union was dire, or I should say in Russia was dire. You got to remember that, like, the Soviet Union industrialized basically out of an agrarian feudal existence in Tsarist Russia. So you went from Tsarist Russia to now socialists control the country and are saying, fuck, how do we industrialize and urbanize this country, right? Because, like, Russia barely had any cities or urban centers to speak of. I think it was basically just Moscow and St. Petersburg, which was renamed to Leningrad after the revolution because people love to be cringe and LARP, but to cringe is to live, etc., etc. So they were like, okay, first things first, we need to, or not first things first, they were also trying to shore up the housing supply, trying to build a lot more housing very quickly. But one thing they did was compaction. And homelessness, the amount of people who were living without a roof over their head actually declined precipitously by something like 30% as a result of compaction. So everybody didn't have a comfortable living situation, but way the fuck fewer people were going homeless. And I think that's actually, people conveniently skip over that. Because then once compaction had finished, what they started doing was actually building more housing. That's when they started building the kommunalkas and the unfortunate fiasco that was the Stalinkas. These different models of apartment blocks and stuff for multifamily housing. And the Soviets were very, very interested in building multifamily housing particularly. Deliver black gummy? Do I have a black gummy? No. Why would I take that job? So I found that to be very interesting, and very cool to read about this housing development. You had the kommunalkas in the early days with the compaction. You had a lot of barracks. You got to understand, housing was in such a sorry state in the Soviet Union that a large percentage of housing that the workers lived in, that people of the working classes and peasantry lived in, was temporary. And you could barely call that housing, right? There's a reason they call it barracks, is because it was functionally like an army barrack, but for workers at a job site. That was housing in the Soviet Union kind of on the eve of the revolution. And then, revolution happens, kommunalkas start being built with sturdy, but they tried to use very inexpensive building material primarily so they could build housing fast. They knew just how dire the housing situation was. Their priority was to build housing very quickly and basically start designing cities from scratch to have like a social core to them. And that's how you get the Soviet style of garden city. Fast forward through the Second World War to the afterwards period, after an entire episode of the Stalinists calling affordable housing, and I'm not joking, leftist excess, these self-proclaimed Soviet communists were out here lambasting apartment buildings as leftist excess, walkable cities and garden cities, leftist excess. And they were like, we need to build single family homes. Not even kidding. After the Second World War, when Stalin died, everybody had to make a big show of how much they missed Stalin and, oh my God, boohoo, state mandated crying. That was a thing. And it must have fucking sucked to live in the Soviet Union for shit like that. But funnily enough, the architects, engineers, and housing sector pretty much instantly moved on. It was like, all right, now we're done with that fucker. Now let's build actual housing. Because the Stalinkas were basically like shitting out apartments for the working class if they built them at all. And it was kind of like a period of class separation where they built luxury housing for the ruling classes. A lot of the class separation that's visible in housing actually comes from the Stalin era. Because after Stalin, with Khrushchev and Brezhnev, apartment construction became so standardized that there was literally no difference between the living conditions of people in the ruling classes and people of the working classes. For all the failures of the Soviet Union, housing was not one of them. In fact, the failures of housing in the Soviet Union came as a result of the collapse of the Soviet Union and how much money it was spending on other stuff. They could build a lot of this housing, but they had a hard time maintaining it. The Khrushchevkas and Brezhnevkas, genuinely, in the configurations that they were built, I would hold up as modern day, like, templates of what a good affordable housing vision could look like, Though, interestingly, it is not the only one. It's not the only vision of what good affordable housing could look like, because what doesn't get mentioned until very late in the article is that the Soviets truly were planning cities from scratch. It's not like, nowadays we have the concept of a 15-minute city. There's sort of a standard kind of way that cities are built, with buildings very close to each other, a lot of mixed use zoning and townhomes and conjoined apartment buildings and stuff like that. If you look at the Google Earth view for cities in Europe or South America, a lot of them will look pretty similar. You'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. There are micro districts, right? Where it's like there are several small districts within a city where like you couldn't get from one end of the city to the other on foot because the city is huge. But if you're in any given part of the city, you can get anywhere you need to go, right? Within a reasonable amount of time. Russian cities actually don't look like that. At least the Soviet era developments. But they still have a social character. The social character is largely constructed within the apartment buildings themselves. The apartment buildings consistently through the Kommunalkas, Khrushchevkas, and Brezhnevkas, which, by the way, the Khrushchevkas are kind of like the backbone of Soviet affordable housing. They're not as high quality as the Brezhnevkas, but they are the by far most numerous type of housing unit in Russia, left over from the Soviet period. Whereas in Western cities, a lot of the social character is outside of the domicile, where like, in an apartment such as mine, you have your bedrooms, you have your kitchen, you have your dining area, you have your bathroom, right? And your closet, and that's all personal space. Interestingly, in the Soviet Union, you had your personal like lounging or sitting and bedrooms, but kitchens and bathrooms were communal. Kitchens, bathrooms, hallways, obviously, so people would have to use the hallways a lot more, interact with their neighbors, and there was more communal like seating and lounging in Soviet apartments. Not to say it took up all that much space. The kitchens and bathrooms, like obviously a lot of these rooms were not themselves very big, because, Soviet Union, not a very wealthy country. But there was like a extraordinary effort to build communities that had a distinctly social character. So even if the layout of an apartment building versus a shop was somewhat similar to what you have in America, where the shops are typically standalone and might not be mixed use, the apartment buildings themselves were very social in character, and they would be configured in kind of like ring formations. Cities in Russia, they were built to be kind of wavy and circular, so you could have these nice winding paths with gardens and parks between each like block of development, right? And that was the Soviet city, basically as designed from scratch by the Bolsheviks and what later became the All-Union Communist Party, whatever. Not without its hiccups, obviously. But like, just a profoundly interesting read, I think, on affordable housing. I think it's basically like affordable housing porn. The Soviet Union was actually one of the main attacks that the Western countries used rhetorically against the Soviet Union when they weren't rightly pointing to how much fucking state-mandated crying you had to do over the death of Stalin, right? One of the things that the West would say very frequently was, look how poor the Soviet Union is. Indeed, look how poor the Soviet Union did, and look how much fucking housing they were able to build to address the housing crisis. Did they actually fully tackle the housing crisis? No, obviously not. It's a massive, massive problem that takes way more commitment and money to solve than the Soviet Union had the time, space, or resources to do. But the fact that the Soviet Union built that much housing with that little money, I think is both a testament to what you can do if you're just willing to commit to the bit, and I think an indictment of the unwillingness of Western countries to do the same. You know, the housing supply in the US, in a lot of Western countries, is stagnating. You know, it's not a matter of us not having the money to build housing. It's a matter of a few random, like, extremely antisocial, evil homeowners being able to hold up the entire process. You know, even a very poor area, a very poor country can build housing if it wants to. And the Soviet Union is a great example of that. And I think that there are a lot of historical lessons. There's historical lessons to take from any and everywhere. That is the historical lesson we should be taking from the Soviet Union. First and foremost, I think, is the historical lesson about housing. You know, that housing, as populations grow, as economics grow and change, whatever, as like, especially in a society where there's like market class separation, whatever, you know, what, in a system where people need to pay rent, housing is something you need to pay very, very key attention to, because that's one of the bedrocks of living a relatively, like, having at least something of an okay quality of life in the modern day. And, you know, the Soviet Union could do it with that little money. So there's no reason that the Western countries out there shouldn't be able to do that too. You know? Oh, I don't have a blue gummy either. I don't want to do deliver missions, but I will if there's not much else. Remember how much money they raised once they realized Zoran was a thing? Yeah, just think of how much fucking money there is available all of a sudden when somebody says, I want to build more housing, and the billionaires all of a sudden decide, no, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And all the fucking real estate people start funneling money in nonstop. Legitimately, Zoran has said they are spending more money against me than I would even tax them. By that token, they are also spending more money against Zoran Mamdani than it would take to build enough affordable housing in New York to solve the housing crisis, at least in a decent chunk of instances. There's just a profound contradiction of incentives here, right? Do I have a TM secret power? If I have more than one secret power TM, then I'll do the delivery mission. More like they care about power than actual money. Yeah, it's, you know, it's like wealth is a measurement of power, but in the absence of wealth, they'll take power all the same, you know? George Orwell describes this with the concept of relative profit. You know, billionaires and the ruling class, in many cases, are willing to burn down society just so they can remain the rulers of whatever's left. You know, even if it's burning cinders, they would rather rule over burning cinders than be equal in paradise. It literally, it's like for the religious people out there, there's a ready-made phrase to describe this. Better to reign in hell than rule in heaven, or than serve in heaven. That is that is what gets drilled into your behavior if you are part of the ruling class in America. Or in any country, really. That is what incentives like point people towards. Better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. Right, in my personal opinion, hierarchy is stupid. True. Coincidentally, they all like start freaking out whenever there's something that would sort of reduce the amount of hierarchy in the world. Okay, I have 6 secret power TMs. So I can take that delivery mission. Deliver secret power. Don't mind if I do. I can take one more. I will take the Mount Steel job. I'm almost positive I'm not going to do the Tiny Woods mission or the Mount Steel mission. In fact, I may as well just delete those now. Yeah. It's dungeons where I'm not going to be gaining any appreciable experience, and the rewards like just aren't that worth it. In Thunderwave Cave, I'm going to make like kind of an exception because I could get there's like some money on offer for doing that, and money is something that I need right now for purchasing those friend areas. For my team, just me and Angles. Okay, I will go get Longshore. I'll do this next mission, and then I'll end stream because I'm actually getting quite hot in this Halloween costume. And I will activate all of these jobs. I'm going to Mount Blaze first thing. Okay. Where I live, you'd be lucky if you overheated. Yeah, that much I know. But you know, my apartment is air conditioned and it's like 70 something degrees in here. And I'm wearing this flight suit, and I'm wearing black sleeves under this flight suit, like as part of my Big Boss costume. So it's kind of a heavy fabric. I don't think it breathes very easily. So anyways, I'm going to save the game and then save state. I'll go to Mount Blaze, and then I will be done for this stream. And then actually, I'm gonna reach out afterwards. Maybe not after, directly after, or maybe yes, directly after this stream, to like a commission artist or something to make a like a stream overlay, so that this, if you see where my mouse is, so that like this much of the screen, or like this part of the screen, can be the actual game. And then like over here there can be like little the text box can be here, socials can be down here, and then like whoever donated, subscribed, followed, whatever, you know, that sort of thing. That'd be good. I saved the game, I know that much. Did I save state? Watch me have said commission artist and then I get messages from commission artists. Nope. It was just a coincidence that Discord went off as soon as I said that. Okay. Mount Blaze time. Once I have once I'm confident that I have like all that stuff set up for stream, I might start doing longer live streams, potentially. You know, that might be good. It depends, though. You know, if I'm making streaming a thing as like a job, I still have to balance streaming and like video editing. So I still don't know exactly how that's gonna play out for me. Okay, Mount Blaze. Second floor. What are the missions on? Oh, it's just one on the 8th floor. And it is to bring the secret power TM. That's actually really nice because I can spend the rest of these floors getting my teammate Longshore up to level 20 or higher, rather. Oh, yeah. Okay, Magby was sleeping. Sleep. Oh, wait, there's something this way? Special band. Doesn't that sell for, like, hella money? Get that Numel out of here. Give me that 100 experience points at a time. How are you still... Okay, only a couple hundred, but, like, kind of crazy that he's not even level 20 yet. Not like it's gonna make that big of a difference, because Rattata's stats in this game are ass. You know? Just like in the main series games. Oh. 3 experience. Must learn a new move. Focus energy? Nah. Oh, he actually gained in every stat this time. What a surprise. So used to him only gaining +1 in like a couple of stats. Because Rattata's sorry ass just does not got it like that. Are the stairs even... No, the stairs aren't even in this room. It's just gigantic ass room. For no reason. Get that Numel out of here. Special band, don't mind if I do. That goes nowhere. You better not have an item. Okay, good. Crazy that I can just walk this close to lava. I mean, I guess in real life you can kind of do that because it depends on what kind of lava it is, but like... You'd fucking die of all of the gases you're inhaling from like rocks being so hot that they are literally molten liquid or like viscous. You know what's the craziest thing that I learned about lava when I was in school is that like yeah, but Pokemon are built different. One thing I learned about lava in school was that it's not always liquid. So first of all, like the only difference between magma and lava is whether it's above ground or below ground. Legitimately, that is the only difference. If it's below ground, you call it magma. If it's above ground, you call it lava. So a volcano has a thing called a magma chamber, but when a volcano erupts, now it's lava. And there's different types of lava. The fuck is Mudkip's doing like the electric slide or something? There's like the really runny kind of lava, which occurs when there's, I think when there's not that much air and minerals in the lava to begin with. It's a much hotter and you know, more liquidy type of lava. The volcano in Hawaii, the big volcano, has this kind of lava because it's like constantly erupting. By which I mean like the lava's just kind of steadily flowing out of it, like you got a runny nose or something. But then sometimes there are lava flows where the lava's actually solid. Like I've seen a video where somebody actually steps on lava very briefly. And like they were fine after the fact. And they do the like, don't fucking try this at home. I'm like a professional geologist or whatever. So I like actually understand what it is I'm stepping on and how to behave around it and stuff like that. But like, I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy, you know? Because when like it didn't always make the most sense when I learned that like, oh yeah, the mantle is like kind of liquid, but sometimes it's not. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And then I found out because like, you know, you see the video and it's like, oh, okay, so it like actually there's like some types of lava that are Rattata, no, don't do it. Eh. Okay, well, see ya, Rattata. I'd say you did your best, but you kind of didn't. Sounds like a technicality. I'm just gonna call it lava. No, it's lava, all right. Lava's just not purely liquid rock. Lava, the definition of lava is, well, you know, or magma if it's underground, is that it is molten rock. Apparently, molten rock that is liquefied, is not always liquid insofar as the states of matter, right? Lava can actually be solid, but so hot that it's kind of like malleable, you know? It's very weird. I've seen it, like, you know how plasma is kind of like liquid and gas at the same time? Lava is kind of like solid and liquid at the same time, if that makes sense. Some types of lava, that is. It's not every type of lava, but some kinds. Oh, this is a destination floor, isn't it? What's up, Lunatone? That was between the lava and magma name thing? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why that difference exists. It's just, lava is just molten rock above ground. Magma is molten rock below ground. But if it's underwater, it doesn't have a different name. It's just lava still. Well, I did that job. So. Yay. Gold gummy. That's fun. And a royal gummy. No, I didn't mean to. I wish it defaulted to yes, save the game. Right? Yay. Alright. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna write down what all I wanted to make segments out of. Let's see here. Ooh, the spooky stream. Stream? What was I gonna do? Oh, yeah. Okay. Dutch elections. And then Soviet Union housing. Yeah. That just sounds like that actually guy. Yeah, I don't know. I could not tell you why that is. The like lava versus magma versus underground lava versus or underwater lava versus like underwater magma or something. I truly don't know. Anyway, Aoife B is live, so let's go raid her. Enjoy. Halloween movie stream? That sounds fun. I'll see you guys later.